Backslide by Black K. Cat. Chapter 16. Awareness. The trip back is quicker, since the genin can now take to the branches without fear of falling. Kakashi also takes mercy, for some small measure of the word, on them, and leads the whole group over the milder slopes of the mountain's feet, rather than the cruel summit. And there's even a quick stop in a tiny village for lunch, which is 100 times more preferable than choking down ration bars on the move. And Kurama is just as glad to pull up a seat at the local noodle bar as any of the kids. Kakashi's been looking smug, Kurama thinks, stretching out his legs and studying the menu on the wall. He almost chuckles to himself, because even though he's known the man for years, he'd never expected such a straightforward confrontation. And maybe it's not nice to find amusement in the man's emotional awkwardness, but it's refreshing. He already knows that the infamous and unbeatable genin is far from the porn-reading, eternally tardy reality. But even so, seeing this side of the man is very close to sweet, which is one word he's never before thought to use in regards to Kakashi. Kurama is still slightly wary, slightly unsure of whether this is the right thing to do, but he doesn't want to look at Kakashi and want to kiss him and force himself to look away. 8 years with Sasuke back in his own time, and he's far too used to being one half of a whole. Oh, he's hardly lonely, not with Naruto and this Sasuke and Sakura, Genma and Raito, and Iruka drifting around the edges, but there's a certain level of closeness in being with someone that's hard to find elsewhere, and that's what Kurama misses. Ah, Kurama, you're thinking deep thoughts, a voice drawls right next to his ear. And it's only years of practice living with a sneaky devil who was far too fond of giving his partner heart attacks that keeps him from flinching. And you have no concept of personal space, Kurama retorts, gently pushing the silver-haired jonin back 4 inches. I think I already proved liable to react badly if you stare at me like that. Kakashi just looks cheerfully mischievous, lounging back against the bar with lazy disregard for manners. And your first instinct to finding yourself unarmed was to try and strangle me with a blanket. Very interesting. Kurama glances away to hide the flush creeping up his cheeks. He huffs, dragging a hand through his hair, and tries not to remember the reason for that. Not Madara, actually, and not bad, but Sasuke. And embarrassing, because regardless of personal growth, Sasuke was always a tamer at heart. I'd apologize, he mutters, rolling his eyes, except that I'm not sorry at all. At all? Kakashi has the audacity to pout at him, though it's mostly hidden behind the mask. Maybe that I failed. Ah, you're so mean to me, Kurama. That's abuse. No jury on earth would convict me after 10 minutes in a room with you. Kakashi smiles at him, startlingly fond, with his eyes crinkling warmly. He hums, and reaches out to pick up a lock of hair from where it's fallen over Kurama's shoulder. With a light tug, he twists it through his fingers, pale skin stark against the red, and lifts it up as though to kiss it, though he stops short. I'm glad, he says softly, then lets the lock fall and turns away to give the waitress his order. Kurama finds he can't even begin to recall how to breathe. Before he can think of how to react, though, there's a slightly sheepish scuffle, and 3 genins slide into the stall, their expressions suspiciously innocent. Naruto is tucking away a ceiling scroll, motions quick and furtive, and there's a familiar, devious glint in Sakura's eyes. Sasuke manages to look mostly guiltless, but even he has a faint and evil smile playing about his mouth. Kurama stares at them for a long moment, brow arched, and then glances over at Kakashi, who appears entirely oblivious. Odds are even as to whether he is or not. Kurama can never quite tell. So, they're going to be making their move then. It's equally appealing to dive out of the way as it is to stay for the show. After a second's debate, Kurama decides he's probably better off where he is, and settles into his seat a little more. Miso ramen, please, he tells the waitress hovering at his elbow, flashing her a distracted smile. We can have ramen, Kurama? Naruto chimes in excitedly, clambering up onto his stool. Yeah! Don't go overboard, brat, Kurama warns him, though it's fond. If you eat too much, you won't be able to keep up on the way back. Ignoring his counterpart's pout. He turns his attention back to the menu for lack of a less conspicuous place to stare. He wants to look over at Kakashi, check if the man is watching him too, but forces his eyes not to move. He'd forgotten what it was like, this awareness, this constant attention to the whereabouts of someone else. It's not quite nerves, not quite obsession, a current of lightning beneath his skin that only reacts to one person. And Kakashi is it. The other Jonin's lazy sprawl of limbs feels imprinted on Kurama's mind, layered into his senses. Every twitch Kakashi makes is recorded and remembered, analyzed for cause and intention. It's a little frightening, quite a bit overwhelming. Breathing out a slow sigh, Kurama props his elbows on the edge of the counter and leans on one arm, stretching the other out before him. He berates himself for overthinking things, can almost hear Sasuke's droll, "I thought I warned you about that and how it overtaxes your brain," but can't help it. He's still a target, still in danger, still a danger to those around him, at least until Tobi and Orochimaru are dealt with. Even Itachi, because as much as the man is a pacifist, Kurama has screwed up pretty much every one of his plans, and he's not one to take that kind of thing lying down. What he'll do is the real question, as is what Kurama can talk him out of doing. And then Tobi. But at least in that matter, Kurama can leave the plans to someone else. Who else is better suited to understanding the insane mind of Uchiha Obito than a not entirely insane Uchiha Obito, after all? Kurama is released from all but the most basic planning and training there, and it's undeniably reassuring. He still definitely wants to see Orochimaru's head on a pike, though, that's for certain. Calloused fingers ghosting over his arm make him flinch and look back towards his companion. Kakashi isn't watching him, though, has his eyes on the intricate seals on Kurama's left arm. Gently, carefully, he slides his fingers through Kurama's and lifts his arm, studying the markings as if he didn't just take Kurama's hand, and Kurama has to give him points for sheer bold-faced smoothness. Whether or not Kakashi has had relationship experience, in this area at least he's accomplished. "Pretty," he says, fingers following the curve of the circle inked in azure blue, right in the middle of Kurama's forearm. "Useful," Kurama countered, but he doesn't move away from the touch. Seals aren't meant to be a decoration, Kakashi. Mine just managed to multitask, I suppose. He watches those fingers against his skin and curses himself for feeling breathless, managing to get out, "Do you really have to feel what my elemental conversion matrix is?" Kakashi just hums thoughtfully again and says, "I heard you mention that before. Connected to your chakra reserves, right? Isn't that dangerous?" "If I'm not careful," Kurama admits, "but it's been a long time since I was forced to burn them out. It takes a lot of doing, because even though they're delicate, I designed them for use." "Your own design, then?" Kakashi doesn't wait for an answer, but slides his hand up, touching another seal set in black ink, which curls out like vines, and then in with sharp edges. "And this?" It's harder than it should be to remember. Kurama licks his lips and wonders if this is a subtle form of torture, leaving that night after Anko cornering him. But surely Kakashi isn't that sadistic, Naruto's complaints aside. The shielding equivalent of a minor genjutsu. It uses chakra to create a sort of perception barrier, the same way a genjutsu would. If I add chakra to that, it makes my presence feel less important, so people can little overlook me. Mild, but it works. Another touch, deft and bold, this time on the back of Kurama's wrist. "This? To trap and contain any mind-altering jutsus directed at me. I don't like being controlled." Kakashi casts a fleeting, unreadable look at him and then moves on, and this time Kurama doesn't even wait for him to ask before he explains. "A simple cargo seal. And that's another. It's hard to fit a legacy of sealing and a whole arsenal of weapons into a single bag, and I wasn't about to put down roots while I was going after Akatsuki. Not like I have now." It hangs unspoken in the air, tentative and a little wary, but Kakashi glances up to meet his eyes and smiles faintly, just enough to show. He says lazily, nodding his thanks to the waitress as his Odin is placed in front of him. "For the best, I think." Kurama wonders, sometimes. Straight revenge, taking out Akatsuki members one after another and claiming their heads. That was so much easier, really, than being a person. He thinks that maybe that's one of the reasons his Sasuke chose the path he did, in the end. Because feeling and loving and being a part of something is hard. And for all that Kurama would like to think he's adjusted, there's still a part of him that wonders if he'll someday wake up and still be in that barren, burned, and ruined world, with Sasuke's breath rattling in his chest and every kiss tasting of blood. With a sigh, Kurama pushes his bowl of ramen over to Naruto and stands. Kakashi is watching him a little warily, their fingers still entwined, and Kurama smiles at him even as he pulls away. "Too many heavy thoughts. Sorry," he says, trying to keep his tone light. "I'll catch up with you guys in a little bit, Kakashi." Kakashi studies him for a long moment before he nods and lets Kurama go. "Don't take too long," he says, and it's as close to "be careful" as he'll get right now. Kurama smiles at him, touches the back of his hand in silent gratitude, and reaches out to ruffle Naruto's hair. He ducks down in between Naruto and Sakura and murmurs, "Get him good," pats Sasuke on the shoulder, and steps out into the afternoon sunlight. There's a faint breeze, just enough to make the day comfortable, and Kurama tucks his hands into his pockets as he sets off down the street. There's a desolate world in his thoughts, a dying best friend lover who won't give up and who won't give in, but won't get better, a demon who is the incarnation of malice but a better friend than he ever deserved, a one-eyed man holding an orange book with an expression on his scarred face like he's once again watching his whole world crumble around him. Their thoughts not fit for company beyond Kurama himself, who understands, who mourns them, who will do everything in his power to make sure they never exist again. Sasuke watches Naruto's cousin walk away, shoulders a straight line and head held high, bright hair almost glowing in the sun. The band's descended once more into melancholy, and Sasuke hasn't noticed until now that lately such fits have become rarer. Confined to the middle of the night when Sasuke comes out to get a glass of water and finds Kurama seated on the windowsill, staring at the moon. He's been happy lately, smiles genuine and laughter bright and clear, and only now, seeing the deep sort of sadness cross his blue eyes, does Sasuke understand just how much the change means. He clenches his hands in his lap, staring blankly into his soba. Together, he and Naruto make Kurama happy, and somehow that feels incredible, humbling. It's different than being the son of the clan head, different than being another genius like his brother, and getting a smile from his father that says, "I expected no less," because there's something about Kurama that's very close to broken, and when he's around them, helping or teaching or cooking or just relaxing, the jagged edges seem less sharp, more bearable. They ease him, his heart, or his loss, or his soul, or whatever romantic name can be put to those broken pieces, and that's... well, Sasuke has never been anything similar to anyone, and it's all but impossible to look Kurama in the eye, see the way he needs them, and then go back to being cold and indifferent. Maybe Itachi would be disciplined enough, unkind enough, but Sasuke isn't. Not now, and hopefully not ever. "Kakashi-sensei?" Sakura says softly from Naruto's other side. "Kurama-san. He's from Uzumaki, isn't he?" Kakashi makes a thoughtful noise, dragging his chopsticks through the broth remaining in his bowl. "Was might be a better way of putting it," he says, and the tone is light and absent, but the expression visible on his face is anything but. Uzumaki was destroyed almost 30 years ago during the Second Shinobi World War. For the first time that Sasuke can remember, Naruto isn't paying attention to the 3 bowls of ramen in front of him. He's gazing down the street on a figure only just now disappearing into the line of trees, and Sasuke can't read his expression. Something sad and fierce and protective and just a little helpless. Though that could be Sasuke projecting, because that's certainly what he feels right now. "Kurama said there weren't many Uzumaki shinobi left," the blonde says, "and that whoever did manage to escape scattered rather than go to another village. I don't think Kurama has even met another one in a long time." Kakashi dips his head, silver hair falling over his face. "I wouldn't be surprised." His voice is almost startlingly grim. Whirlpool country was small, and Uzumaki even smaller, not even a quarter the size of Konoha. The Uzumaki were probably their most prominent clan, and they weren't even as numerous as the Hyuga. But... Sakura bites her lip, looking down, and seems to come to a decision. She squares her shoulders, raises her head, and asks, "But why is Uzumaki never mentioned in Konoha? Even if it was destroyed, the Second Shinobi War wasn't that long ago. There have to be records or histories or something. But when I looked in the library, there were a couple of scrolls on advanced sealing theory and one recipe book, and nothing else. Because Uzushio's destruction is one of the darkest stains on Konoha's honor, Kakashi says simply. He taps the spiral design on his Jonin vest and explains, "We were allies from the moment of Konoha's founding on. Senju Hashirama took a Whirlpool Country princess, an Uzumaki princess, as his bride. For years, when the rest of the elemental countries were at war or in turmoil, Konoha and Uzushio were stable because of their alliance. Trade, training, military support, political alliances. The villages were friends. But Uzushio specialized in sealing, taught its shinobi seals the way we teach bunshin. Other countries were afraid of that and how powerful it made them. So Kiri and Iwa banded together and destroyed the entire village over the course of a few days. Uzushio sent a call for help, but Konoha was in the middle of several other battles and reached them too late. So it's our shame as a village, and people don't tend to talk about it." Sasuke looks down where his hands are fisted in his pants, curled so tightly the knuckles are bleached white, and wonders what it must be like to lose your entire home and be able to do nothing. Not even seek revenge, because one man, even a handful of shinobi, against two of the most powerful hidden villages is just another name for suicide. And still Kurama can smile. Still he can laugh with them and teach them his family's kenjutsu and seals. Sasuke doesn't know whether to be impressed or horrified. "Do you know what it was like?" Naruto asks suddenly, poking at his ramen without looking up. His brows are drawn down in an entirely unfamiliar expression, and even after living with him, Sasuke still isn't used to seeing Naruto any mood but bubbly. He doesn't like it. "Uzushio, I don't really want to ask Kuramani in case I make him sad, but I want to know. It's where my clan is from." Sasuke's never thought of it this way before, but he and Naruto have that in common now. He's the last of his clan besides his brother, and Kurama and Naruto are the last of their clan as well. Both survivors of tragedies, and the only ones to carry their clan's legacies. Somehow, Sasuke wishes it was the one thing neither of them shared. "I knew a girl from Uzushio," Kakashi says slowly, but it's more thoughtful than reluctant. She would talk about it sometimes, when she missed it. It was built around an inlet, right on the coast, with bridges out over the water and a large dock. Colorful buildings built tall, and columns and fountains everywhere. There were hills all around it, steep and green. It was a small village, but beautiful. Lots of white stone and red tiles, and the whole thing was built on levels, terraces set into the hills. She would say that when the sun set, it made the whole place look like it had been dipped in gold, and the sea would turn as crimson as an Uzumaki's hair. Naruto looks very close to shaken, and on instinct, Sasuke reaches out to grab his wrist, gripping it tightly. On his other side, Sakura is leaning into him, and when she meets Sasuke's eyes, her expression is troubled. But they don't move, don't say anything, just offer all the silent support they can. "It sounds..." Naruto trails off, then shakes himself like a dog getting rid of water. "No wonder Kuramani misses it! It sounds amazing!" But the enthusiasm is ever so slightly less than normal, and the blue eyes are still uneasy. He subsides after a moment, then takes a deep breath and blurts, "Kakashi-sensei, do you think the Konoha could be Kuramani's home too, even if he lost Uzushio?" There's a long moment of silence, and then Kurama reaches out and drops a hand on Naruto's head. He looks between the three of them, eye curving into an honest smile, and says, "I think between the four of us that we can manage to convince him." Kurama wanders through the forests, touching stately trunks and brushing through low-hanging branches. The air smells green and sharp and fresh, with an undertone of age and earth, and he loves it, missed it so very much when Madara scorched the earth bare. When the man was done, there were only a few scattered stands of trees left, and even those were quickly destroyed in battle. Obito might be the one with Mokuton, but Kurama has long since learned to appreciate Fire Country's vast forests, and for more than simply their strategic value. The day is warm, and the sun is bright, and the dark thoughts are slowly filtering away. Kurama stretches his arms above his head to pop his spine and contemplates calling one of his summons for a bit of uncomplicated company. Not toads anymore. Not since the Gyubi changed him. Something about opposing prerogatives and only a moron contesting the claim of those allied with a bijou. Foxes, now. And as much as Naruto has always loved the toads, there's something about his foxes that just suits him. They're shy and haven't contracted often because humans too often look at them and think of the folktales. Wicked kitsune tricksters and innocent farmers set at odds, with the humans coming out on the losing side. But they're just another animal, many tails or not, and Kurama is hardly in any position to judge the truth of rumor. They're tricksters, certainly, but so is Kurama. He gives in after another moment, a puff of smoke dissipating on the wind and leaving behind a tall white fox with long legs and 3 tails crouched beside him. She yips a greeting, high and bright, and Kurama laughs as he drops to his knees beside her. Fuji, he offered, and in a moment she's put her paws on his shoulders and is inspecting every inch of his face. So long, she bemoans, and cuffs him in the side of the head with a paw. We thought you'd forgotten about us, Kurama, he corrects gently. There's already a Naruto here, and I'm not about to take away his name. Fuji pauses and cocks her head, studying him. It worked then, she says, and it's not a question. A moment later, she shakes it off, light tails flashing in the sun. Well, she says judiciously, surveying their surroundings like a very short queen. It's certainly nicer than the last place. May I? Go ahead, Kurama chuckles, and she's off in a bolt of snowy fur and silent feet. Maybe this is why he likes the foxes so much, Kurama reflects with a wry grin as he rises to his feet. They're very much like he is. Short attention spans and boundless curiosity and all. Fuji is one of the younger ones and all the more enthusiastic for it, and Kurama tends to call her first whenever his mood needs lightening. I'll bring you back a rabbit if I find one, Fuji calls back. And Kurama might be worried, except for all that she's formidable in a fight, she's an absolutely lousy hunter. Sure, he answers, sometime next year, right? There's no answer but an indignant huff and a swish of tails, and then the fox is gone. Kurama shakes his head fondly and turns, looking back through the wood to the village. Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke are likely still eating, and Kakashi is probably keeping them company. If he goes now, he can catch them before they even leave, and hopefully they'll forget his descent into reminiscence. Naruto will like Fuji too, and Sakura will doubtless think she's pretty, which Fuji will enjoy. Decided, Kurama allows himself a smile and takes 3 steps in the direction of the village. Then, without any warning, a long-fingered hand closes around his throat and he's all but hurled back against the bole of a tree. He hits the wood back first, all the air driven from his lungs, and reacts automatically, one foot lashing out even as one hand closes over his attacker's wrist and the other goes for a poisoned senbon. Poison's not his first choice, never seems fair, but Kurama has learned the hard way not to give anyone an opening for anything. He flicks one out and palms it, stabs forward only to be blocked. Another kick, harder this time, and aimed to do damage, and the man grunts, falling back with a pain sound. He immediately lunges again, but Kurama is used to having far less reaction time than even that, ducks away, leaps out of reach, and meets the next barrage of blows head on. He stabs again, scratches skin, and feels a thrill of victory, then ducks to the side and disengages. It's a fast-acting paralysis, and while a tiny scratch won't release much into the bloodstream, it will be enough to hinder movement. Enough for a victory, hopefully. But the man is moving in, again, a blur of dark hair and dark clothes. Kurama makes to take a step forward and meet him when suddenly a vicious snarl splits the air. Something white and shining flashes in between them, cutting the attacker off mid-movement as Fuji bristles. She's as big as a normal nin can, but wild, more feral in appearance, with her sharp snout full of needle teeth and pointed ears flat back against her head. Her head is down, her tails are fanned out behind her, and her claws are digging deep into the soft earth, leaving furrows. Kurama? She growls, requests for permission to attack. Kurama doesn't answer. He straightens, stepping forward to put a hand on her back, and turns his gaze to the man across from him. Uchiha Itachi, he says politely, and if he doesn't quite meet those red and black eyes, he thinks he can be forgiven. I was wondering when you would find me.